Oh my god, I have to show y'all this book. Y'all have to read this book if you have not ever read this book, Power vs. Force. It's kind of just like that, you know? And that's what I like learning about the biochemistry, because I feel like it always tells the story of how we relate to each other. And, you know, so there's polar bonds, which is unequal sharing, and then you have non-polar bonds, which are equal sharing of electrons. So they're just chilling. Like, it would be like, non-polar would be like you and your best friend. Like, there's nobody trying to win or dominate the other or manipulate. It's just like coherently sharing the bonds. Everything's even and reciprocal. And then you have polar bonds where someone's always trying to win. You know, there's like a power struggle. Power versus force. Anyway, this is a really famous book, and I found it from YouTube University. I found this guy who had he had a YouTube channel talking about spirituality and stuff, and I found his channel, and he was talking about this book, and I was like, I have to get this book. Oh my gosh. Anyway, Dr. David Hawkins, who wrote the book, the author, I have a few of his other books too. I have this book, which I love so much. I think I read it twice. Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender. And then I also have this other book by him, Transcending the Levels of Consciousness, The Stairway to Enlightenment. And I really have to say, I love the contents of the book, but more importantly, when I open a book, like, I first off, like, people would tell me, oh, you should get a Kindle. I want to touch the book. I want to smell the book. I want to feel the book. I want to bring the book with me, and I want to see the cover all the time. And I want it to remind me of what I'm learning at the moment, you know? So I love in-person books. Just saying. Anyway, he has this map of consciousness, and it's all these emotions, and it starts with talking about kinesiology and how when we are out of balance, the energy in the body's out of balance. So that it's like, you might not believe in energy, but you believe in Wi-Fi, which is crazy, because like that's invisible waves. You know, you believe in the radio, invisible waves, right? X-ray, microwave. There's a bunch of invisible waves and things that we can't see. So like when we get angry, that's a different wave that we're putting off, different electrons, different signaling than happy and content and peace, or like meditating or sleeping, you know? It's kind of crazy. Anyway, the lower emotions. Anyway, so what I was saying with that is that our muscle testing, our body tests weaker in its ability to contract when we are in a negative state of mind. And when we're positive, strength, light, the energy is flowing, which that's really just more like common sense if you think about it. Like, it really just is common sense. Like, the world is heavier and darker when our state of mind, like, we are out of energy and in chaos when our mind state is. So he has these states of consciousness, and he kind of explains a lot of them, and it's a really, really good book. I recommend. At the bottom, he has the emotion, humiliation, blame, despair. I'm going to go up. Regret, anxiety, craving, hunger hormone, ghrelin, dopamine, satisfaction from the outside. But craving also leads to enslavement. Anyway, we're going to continue to go up. After craving is hate, scorn, affirmation. Then we have trust, optimism, forgiveness, understanding, reverence, serenity, bliss, ineffable. Which is like, you know, love and joy and peace and This other side, he has shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, enlightenment. That's so beautiful. And he also has other descriptions of the life view, like what correlates to shame, misery, what correlates to anger, or desires, disappointment, courage, feasibility, So I really like this book. I recommend it. A mood, often repeated, gains a momentum that is hard to break or check, so be careful of the feelings you entertain. Habitual needs reveal the state in which you are fused. Understanding is the secret of patience. A disciple is one who disciplines his mind that he may consciously function and act on ever higher and higher levels of consciousness. Turn from all who would offer to do for you what you should and could do better for yourself. Our deepest feelings are precisely those we are least able to express, and even in the act of adoration, silence is our highest praise. The whole of life is just the appearance of hunger, and the infinite states of consciousness from which a man can view the world are purely a means of satisfying that hunger. It is our inner conversations which make tomorrow's facts. In the beginning was the Word. At any moment in our lives, we are faced with an infinite choice. What are we and who do we want to be? That's what I think about with the habits. At every moment, we are faced with an infinite choice. Like, years ago, I was just like realizing that from the moment that I woke up in the morning, like, that was my health. So I had an addiction to checking my phone first thing in the morning and getting sucked away from my own spirit, just getting sucked away. And my whole day felt like chaos. And so I started turning my phone on airplane mode and not rushing. I would leave my phone on airplane mode till I had to turn it on. And some days, if I didn't have to turn my phone on, like, I would just leave that baby off. And it's such a different world. And the phone is so easily, it's so easy to get sucked into that. And then I started making my bed because I found out that every time you complete something in the morning, you can create more dopamine. So I was like, okay, dopamine is motivation. So let me just try and do these things. And it took me a while to develop the habit of making my bed. But now I can't imagine what my life would be like if I didn't make my bed, So I also just feel like I just thought about like children, like teaching your children how to do these small things is so important, like little states of discipline and cleanliness, because it's like spiritual hygiene. And something I was thinking about while I was in the shower was like, I feel like every child, as they get to middle school, should start to be introduced to what diabetes is as a disease. Like, I feel like everyone and their grandmother should know what diabetes is. And because our blood sugar, diabetes is hallmarked by insulin resistance. And so you can have 10 people with insulin resistance, and each of those people may manifest insulin resistance in different ways, because insulin resistance is not just involved with diabetes. We associate it with diabetes, and it confuses us. It confuses us because then when I call another disease Parkinson's or PCOS, I am putting other characteristics to that other disease, and I'm forgetting that there's a foundational mechanism to all disease, which is a lack of energy functioning, and insulin brings sugar into the cell. So the reason why, we need to focus on keeping our attention focused on us and the habits that we're forming and the relationships that we have with food, with people, with everything, is for the stabilization of our blood sugar. Because like right now our blood sugar is like this, and our whole society is like this, just chaotic. And the more our blood sugar is like crazy like this all the time, the harder our bodies have to work metabolically just to bring it back to baseline. And so having it more regulated creates more autonomy in the biochemistry. There's more work to do. Instead of doing chaos work and damage cleanup all the time, I am focusing on building and repairing. So if you ever wanted to improve your skin health, that is the immune system. The immune system would be building and repairing and restoring, instead of just putting out the fire and just barely making it by. The energy is conserved a bit better. So anyway, also insulin resistance is evolved in the aging process. So like everybody should know what diabetes is, because there are several different forms. It's just, I wouldn't even, like, personally, there's this other book, I don't know if I could reach it. Oh, this book is really good, but it's called Brain Energy, and it's all about a revolutionary breakthrough of understanding mental health and improving treatment for anxiety, depression, OCD, PTSD, and more, by Christopher Palmer, MD. Understanding how the blood sugar affects mitochondria and our genetic expression, like, it's just so important. So that's how I feel, if, and things like, okay, so we talked a little bit about diabetes and like blood sugar and how to regulate that, but like, okay, I didn't give any useful information, but I read this book one time, and I was born with cataracts, if I haven't told you before. And this scientist, he took blind people and people with cataracts, and he put them in the sun, and he found that these blind people, he exposed them to light as opposed to people who didn't have cataracts or blindness. And he found that the people with cataracts and blindness had dysregulated levels of glucose, and because of this dysregulated blood sugar, it caused all sorts of havoc within the hormones. And he found that when he had them in the sun, we are photoelectric beings. Like, we respond to the sunlight. So anyway, I have cataracts. I was born with cataracts. I know, kind of young for them, born with them. But I make it apparent to go out in the sun and to get light into my eyes, because our eyes are just an external portion of the brain. And when we let light into our eyes, our body's able to come out of this state of confusion and separation. And so many things happen, like vitamin D. You could link up low vitamin D with insulin resistance. You could link up, insulin resistance she has a handshake with all these different things. Cortisol, low vitamin D, low cholesterol, all these things. The brain, the eyes are like, like right around there, right? And they go right back to the brain, and they signal to this middle center here. They talk to the diencephalon. But anyway, this little thing here, they talk to everything, and then all this information shoots down, communicates through the spinal cord, and then the spinal cord disseminates all the information. Oh, I was, let me see this. I was making tortillas. I made some homemade tortillas this past week. It was so fun. It was so easy. And off topic, but sunlight it helps to regulate our blood sugar, and things like strength training, resistance training, going on walks, like eating protein. I was talking about today about enzymes, and you know, a lot of diabetics will reverse their diabetes through trying a keto or a carnivore diet. And funny enough, not really that funny, but keto diet was discovered to treat epileptic seizures, which has a lot to do with sugar in the brain. And so, as we call diabetes type 3, Alzheimer's, dementia. So all of this stuff is really, really connected, and it's really, really important to understand and to know. And even with things like depression and anxiety, like, yeah, depression and anxiety, you can look at that like, okay, it is a precursor to another disease. If insulin resistance is involved with depression and anxiety, if high cortisol, all these same symptoms apply to Alzheimer's, dementia. They apply to PCOS and Parkinson's and all of these other things. So it's all connected. It's just so important to understand this blood sugar, this regulation, these habits, Anyway, I'm gonna go. I hope this video is helpful for you. It's kind of long. Thanks for hanging out. If you had stayed this time, I just always try to be myself when I'm coming on here, and sometimes I find that difficult to do because it's like you're talking in front of camera, and like putting yourself up for judgment. And of course I talked about how like I am my own worst critic. I judge myself all the time. I'm always thinking about how I could have done something better, how I could have changed something. Just a little bit too hard on myself sometimes, but I don't aim to be perfect. So if I mistake saying something ever, I always encourage people to do their own research and to search for your own answers. Talk to people, read and try to understand things. That's part of the reason why I turn off my comments. I turn it off for a lot of different reasons, but one of the reasons is people comment way too easily on social media and everything. It's too easy to say whatever you're thinking, like, and sometimes that's negative. A lot of times it's very unproductive. And so I'm like, okay, let me save you energy. Instead of going to type in the comments, go type in Google insulin resistance biochemistry, melatonin biochemistry, anything, depression biochemistry. Go take that energy and go put it into something that can help you learn, not just going to the comment section and just wasting time. That's how I feel with it sometimes, and I think it's useful. Sometimes I go back and forth. I'm like, I don't want to limit free speech. That's not what I'm intending to do. I want people to be able to express their opinions. That's why I have my email attached so that people can reach out to me, and some people have reached out and connected, but a lot of times it's an extra step that people who are just quickly wanting to comment something and have no intention of contributing or adding to their own evolution and understanding, they're not going to take that extra step. So I just encourage you to take the time to do your own research and to ask questions and to be curious, because I think curiosity it's so attractive, to want to understand and want to improve your situation, because we could use some improvement around here. Of course, our children deserve a better world to live in. Absolutely. Anyway, I love you so much, and I will catch you next time. Sweet dreams.